purpose of life, communism, guns, and Jesus. And I know it's kind of an out there topic, but I think they're all a little bit more related than people realize. And we'll just get right to it. What is the purpose of life? Well, the purpose of life is to live. And I hope you don't turn this off and think that's a cop-out answer, but really, I mean, you can't have any other purpose to your life if you can't handle the necessities of living. And it's pretty basic. You need food, water, you need to be able to regulate your body temperature, stay warm, and you need oxygen. You need to be able to breathe. That's about it. And, from that point, you can go on and do whatever you want with your life. You can, develop your spiritual side, your friendships, your emotional, whatever, hobbies, snowboarding, quilting, knitting, whatever. But, you really can't have any purpose to your life if you can't handle the necessities there. Like, that is the purpose of life, to some degree at least, is just to survive. And nowadays it seems like there's a trend to try to get America out of this evil capitalist thing and more over towards, socialism, communism, Marxism. And I don't think it's, prevalent. I don't think it's everybody in this country, but I mean, enough people are fed up with capitalism. I hang around some people in the Occupy movement, and I think a lot of them are kind of like, we need to bring about the end of capitalism in America. And I don't think they've really figured out, well, what are you going to replace it with? I'm not a capitalist, I'm not a communist, I'm none of that. I don't like to think in isms, but there's a rising socialist, communist, whatever, crowd in America right now. And, a lot of that has to do with there's, obvious inherent problems with capitalism. And a lot of people on the right don't want to address that. They think it's, this God-given, capitalism is the best system in the world and the best country in the world, and it's American exceptionalism. And I think a lot of people are realizing, no, there's inherent flaws with it. Like, we have these corporations and banks that really run the world right now, and they keep taking us to for-profit wars, and, it's not going to end well. And we need to address some of these issues, but I don't think communism is the answer here. And I just want to point out, communism a lot of times ends in starvation. Look at, Stalin and what happened in Ukraine. Look at Mao and the Great Leap Forward. Look at North Korea. It's real easy to say, oh yeah, the government will take care of you, go sign up for your food stamps, whatever, but when it comes down to it, you have to be able to feed everybody. And a lot of the communist societies in the past, when there's even less people, couldn't handle it. So how are you going to handle that now? And I think a lot of people would be wise to go back to just growing their own food right in their backyard to take care of that. You can raise chickens, you can raise rabbits. They're actually really efficient to raise for meat, and it's tasty. But, people just think, oh, it's at the grocery store, I'll go get it, and it never really occurs to them, well, what if that doesn't stay there? What if the grocery store shuts down or whatever? It seems impossible to many people, but I mean, really, if we, had skyrocketing oil prices or whatever, and we couldn't afford to transport our food in from other places around the world, it could be an issue at some point. And as our population continues to increase exponentially, we're already at 7 billion people on this planet, and that's increasing exponentially. Like, these are issues that we really have to think about. And I just want to do a little compare and contrast kind of between communism and capitalism, because I don't think people understand where we're really at today. But I just looked up the definitions here before I made this, and I'll paraphrase a little bit. But communism is all property is publicly owned, and each person works and is paid according to their ability and their needs. Well, who's going to determine what your ability is and what your needs are? Because, a lot of people, slave owners in the past and whatnot, have thought that people can work 20-hour days on a bowl of rice. And I'm sure you don't want to do that. But, if you really do end up in a system like that, a nanny state, where it's going to come down to, well, we have to do this because everyone needs to get fed, so go work these fields for 20 hours a day. And I know that's hypothetical, and maybe we'll have robots that can do it for us. And I advocate a resource-based economy because I see technological unemployment leading us in that direction. But that's a long ways off. And when it comes down to it, if we really do have this nanny state, when something goes wrong, who's going to fix it? I hope you had a garden in your backyard. I hope you raised chickens and whatnot. And I know it sounds like some doomsday thing to think about, but it's not that wild of an idea to think, starvation has killed a bunch of people before, and you should be prepared just in case. And on top of that, too, well, let's talk about capitalism. Capitalism here, I have property is controlled by private owners for profit, and that's kind of the basic thing, with capitalism, but it's not that simple at all. And first of all, I'll start off with like, let's look at all the publicly owned things in our capitalist society right now. Who owns the roads? You know, you're probably surrounded on all four sides by public owned land that everyone shares. You know, that's a socialist, Marxist, communist idea right there. You know, who owns public schools? Who owns the police station? Who owns national parks? You know, who owns all our battleships? Who owns all that stuff? You know, it's our tax dollars. It's supposed to be we the people. But that's not really a capitalist idea. Like, you know, is it privately owned or is it publicly owned? And the world doesn't fit into simple isms and, you know, communism, capitalism, like whatever. But if we really were in a straight capitalist society, you could grow the #1 cash crop in this country, cannabis, in your backyard. You could open a casino in your backyard and it wouldn't be a big deal. But that's not how it is anymore. You know, like it's not just, you know, private property, do whatever you want, make a profit. And, you know, there's good reasons for that. You know, there are some things that you probably shouldn't do. I don't want my neighbor, you know, developing nuclear power and putting radiation out through my neighborhood or something like that. But I just think we need to think about things on a more real, practical level and less on, you know, oh, this is capitalism, that's communism, that's socialism. You know, like, we need to really get real here. And this comes down to individual freedom versus the government knows best and the nanny state that a lot of people are trying to throw us into. And I mean, it sounds easy, it sounds electable, you know, well, yeah, we'll cover that, we'll cover this, and it's goofy, but, you know, when you already have so many people unemployed anyway, you know, people want their food stamps, they want their unemployment, they want their benefits, and it's easy to just be like, yo, sign me up, I'll fall back on this nanny state. But when it comes down to it, you can't be dependent on the government for everything. That's not going to end well. And what do guns and Jesus have to do with this? If you really want to ensure your freedom, you have to be able to. And all throughout history, you know, people have been warring over resources. It's a pattern that just repeats itself over and over again. You know, even animals do it, even plants. They compete over resources. Like, people don't realize it, but they really do. You know, a lot of people expect the government to protect them from every threat in the world, every terrorist, every person who wants to harm them. And that's totally unrealistic. It's never going to happen. You know, those who are willing to trade liberty for security have and deserve neither. It's what it is. Like, you have to take responsibility to say, hey, I'm going to get my own food. I'm going to generate it right here. You know, we should change our government to make it easier. We don't need agriculture subsidies for corporations. We need people to be able to afford land and not have banks own it and, you know, have you paying rent for your right to exist on this earth. And people need to get out of this police state thing. We need to take responsibility for defending ourselves, protecting ourselves, and ensuring that our rights exist. And when I was living in Denver, there was some guy going around trying to tase people late at night, tase women that were out by themselves late at night, and rape them. And I don't even know if they ever caught the guy or what, but I want to talk about how the police are not always there for you. You know, there's another country could invade. It sounds crazy and wild to go on that tangent, but people need to be able to protect themselves. And the best way I can see to do that is guns. I want to show you something here real quick. It's a little 32 auto Caltech, and it fits right in my pocket. No one even knows it, you know, it's there. And I think if more people had that and concealed carried, you know, we wouldn't need this whole police state. You know, like, you know, a 90-pound woman could walk up on that dude with a taser trying to rape somebody, pull out a little Caltech, and totally change that situation. Where, you know, without it, what are you going to do about it, you know? Like, really. This is an equalizer. I feel like it's in our Constitution. Everyone has the right to have it. And I just want to really advocate the Second Amendment. I support it fully. I think that is a key foundation block of the Constitution. I feel like more Americans should conceal carry, and we should get, you know, back to the basic: protect yourself, take care of your family, and we don't need this, you know, ridiculous police state that we can't afford, and, you know, we're going to keep supporting it, and when we run out of food, they're going to come, you know, take over somebody's farm or something. But we need to get back to the basics. I think that's really where it's at. And I have Jesus down here because a lot of Christians, they have their heads up their asses right now, and they don't understand what's important anymore. And we need to change that. You know, George Bush using the whole right, religious, whatever, to take us into Iraq, man, that was bad. They need to get awake. They need to stop just following people. You know, you need to take individual responsibility back for yourselves. And be be a force for good in this world.